This channel shares chilling and mysterious stories involving black magic, curses, spirit attachments, spiritual bonds, and other supernatural phenomena that many people have never witnessed. If you enjoy stories like these, don't forget to like and subscribe for more terrifying tales. And now, let us step into today's story. It had been almost a year since anyone last heard about Master Ba. Strangely, every year around Christmas, he would reappear as if fate had arranged it. And this year was no different. This story took place in Vinglong, Master Ba's ancestral hometown. After hearing previous stories about Master Saucan, people had begun to realize that spells, rituals, and spiritual powers might truly exist beyond ordinary understanding. In early 1990, shortly after Lunar New Year, a married couple arrived at Master Ba's house in a state of panic. The wife had tied her husband's hands tightly behind his back and dragged him into the yard. "Master Ba, please help my husband. Since last night, he's been acting like a different person, like something possessed him." Master Ba looked at the man only once before saying quietly, "This isn't an illness. He's possessed." As Master Ba went to retrieve his spirit jar, the wife untied her husband out of pity. Instantly, the man broke free and ran wildly into the rice fields, like a madman being chased by something unseen.
After a long struggle, they finally brought him back. This time, Master Ba tied a 5-colored sacred thread around the man's wrists. The moment it touched his skin, he became completely still. The wife introduced herself as Mrs. Sao Lam. Their home was near Ba Kang Bridge in Vinlong. Master Ba dipped his finger into cinnabar ink and pressed it onto the man's forehead. Within seconds, his face turned pale, like someone who had just drowned. Then, another voice came from his mouth. I am his son. I came back to protect my mother." Everyone froze in fear. The spirit inside wasn't a demon. It was the soul of their son who had drowned years ago. The boy's spirit explained that he possessed his father only to stop his father from drinking and beating his mother. The night before, the father had even threatened her with a knife. Only then did Master Ba understand. This wasn't an evil spirit seeking revenge, but a son who couldn't rest in peace because he still worried about his mother. After helping Mrs. Sao Lam's family, evening had already fallen. Master Ba and his nephew rode along a dirt road beside the river. Halfway there, Master Ba suddenly tapped his nephew's shoulder
And said quietly, "Stop the bike. Something here feels wrong." Across the river, several brick boats were anchored near the shore. Workers were carrying bricks as usual. Everything looked normal. But Master Ba stood still, staring intensely at something on the opposite bank. When his nephew asked what he saw, Master Ba silently brushed 2 fingers across his eyes. In that instant, the world changed. Colors sharpened, shadows deepened, and hidden things became visible. A young man in white was carrying bricks from the boat to shore, but behind him was something terrifying. A dark figure clung to his back like a parasite. It looked like a young girl with long hair, twisted limbs, and hollow white eyes. Sometimes it had no face. Sometimes it stared directly across the river. His nephew trembled in fear. What is that?" Master Ba answered with only 2 words. "Spirit Maiden." Not an ordinary ghost. Someone created that thing through forbidden rituals. Master Ba ordered his nephew to call the young man over. As the young man turned toward them, the dark spirit suddenly looked directly at Master Ba, smiled, then plunged into the river and vanished. Minutes later, the young man crossed over by boat. He introduced himself as Toei, recently living nearby with his adoptive uncle. Master Ba stared into his eyes and asked, "Do you know what has been feeding on your back?" The young man's face turned pale. Before leaving, Master Ba gave him his address and warned, "The day you come looking for me, you may only have half your life left."
More than a month had passed since the encounter by the river. Life seemed normal again, but Master Bay's nephew could never forget the young man named Toy, nor the spirit maiden attached to his back. Then one midnight, when the village had gone silent, a desperate voice echoed through the darkness. "Master Bay, save me!" His nephew rushed outside and found a man collapsed at the gate. Under the lantern light, he froze. It was Toy. But Toy no longer looked healthy. His body had become thin and weak, his skin pale and purple, his eyes sunken as if he hadn't slept for days. He was immediately brought inside. The moment Master Bay saw him, he sighed deeply. "I warned you. If you ever came looking for me, you'd only have half your life left." Master Bay quickly prepared rainwater mixed with the ashes of a burned talisman. He ordered his nephew to wipe Toy's body with it. As soon as the cloth touched his skin, they saw dark purple veins spreading all over his body like poison. Toy trembled and whispered for help in pain. Then Master Bay drew a circle of cinnabar around his neck. The moment it was complete, Toy suddenly vomited black blood. But inside the blood, dozens of living maggots were writhing. Master Bay's expression darkened. This isn't an ordinary spirit. This is living curse magic. He lit 7 candles around Toy's body and hung an ancient coin tied with red thread before his mouth. Minutes later, Toy's stomach began swelling as if something alive was moving. Alive was moving inside. Then suddenly, a worm as thick as a finger crawled out from his mouth. Then another and another, until dozens of them fell to the floor and burned in the candle flames. Nearly an hour later, the creatures finally stopped. Tay slowly opened his eyes again. But now, the fear on his face was different. As if the thing trying to kill him wasn't a ghost, but a living person. Master Bay stared into his eyes and asked quietly, "Now tell me the truth. Who exactly is your Uncle Ba?" That night, after leaving the riverside, the mysterious young man and I followed the spirit maiden into the ancient forest behind the village. The moonlight was blocked by giant old trees, leaving the path ahead swallowed by thick darkness. Every step across the rotten leaves created chilling sounds, as if something was crawling just beneath the ground. The young man tightly gripped his wooden sword, his eyes fixed on the spirit maiden floating ahead. After nearly an hour of walking through the forest, an ancient shrine covered in green moss appeared before us. The statues surrounding it were broken, their faces eroded beyond recognition. The spirit maiden stopped before the decayed wooden door and whispered, "It is waiting for you inside." A cold chill ran down my spine. Before I could ask anything, the shrine's door slowly opened on its own with a terrifying creak. Inside, there was only the flickering glow of red candles and an old altar covered in dust. But what terrified me the most was a portrait of myself placed on the altar. The young man immediately stepped back, his face turning pale. He whispered, "Impossible. The chosen one is you." At that moment, a hoarse laugh echoed from deep within the darkness, and I realized the real journey had only just begun. The hoarse laughter echoed through the ancient shrine, as if it were coming from
all directions at once. I stood frozen, unable to take my eyes off the portrait on the altar. The face in the painting was mine. From the eyes, the hair, even the small birthmark on my neck, not a single detail was different. The young man stepped forward, gripping his wooden sword so tightly that his knuckles turned white. "You are not an ordinary person," he said, his voice trembling slightly. Before I could understand what was happening, the red candles on the altar suddenly flared violently. Black smoke rose and slowly formed the shape of an old woman with long hair covering her face. The spirit maiden immediately knelt down, fear shining in her eyes. The old woman spoke in a dry voice. "At last, you have returned." I stepped back. "Who am I?"
The old woman slowly raised her head. Her wrinkled face suddenly changed, becoming my own face, but aged and covered in blood. The young man shouted, "Don't look into its eyes!" But it was too late. The moment my eyes met hers, countless Chu's memories flooded my mind. A village burning in flames, children crying, and a curse that had lasted for centuries. I collapsed to my knees, my head feeling as if it would explode. And finally, I remembered the truth. The chaotic visions kept flooding my mind like a raging tide. I held my head and collapsed onto the cold stone floor of the ancient shrine, breathing heavily as if I were about to faint. Then, suddenly, everything became clear. I saw myself, but dressed in an ancient crimson robe, standing in the ritual courtyard of a village hundreds of years ago. Around me, the villagers were kneeling in fear. Above them, black clouds swirled as if disaster was about to strike. A voice echoed through the memory. You were chosen to become the sacrifice, to seal the dark spirit. My heart nearly stopped. I remembered. My name in that past life was Lin. I had willingly entered the ritual to save the entire village. But at the final moment, someone betrayed me. The image became clearer. The one holding the ritual knife was none other than the village chief. He never wanted to seal the evil spirit. He wanted to use my soul in exchange for immortal power. I opened my eyes, my whole body trembling. Tears ran down my face before I even realized it. The young man looked at me with heavy eyes. He quietly said, "At last, you remember." I looked at him. "Who are you?" He stayed silent for a few seconds, then slowly knelt before me. "I have waited for you for 300 years. The entire shrine fell into silence. Only the crackling of candles and the pounding of my heartbeat remained. The young man remained kneeling before me, his eyes filled with pain, as if he had carried that guilt for centuries. My voice trembled as I asked again, 300 years? Who exactly are you? He slowly raised his head. Under the red candlelight, his face looked unnaturally pale. My name is Min, he whispered. In your past life, I was the one who loved you. My heart tightened. Buried memories suddenly returned in fragments. A young man standing beneath the village banyan tree, quietly smiling at me. I stepped back, my eyes widening. It was you. Min lowered his head, his voice hoarse with pain. That night, I tried to save you. But when I arrived, everything was already too late. He slowly pulled down his collar. On his chest was a deep stab wound, blackened as if it had never healed in hundreds of years. I died that very night. I couldn't say a word. Min looked up at me, his eyes bloodshot. But before I died, I made a vow with the Spirit Maiden. Even if I had to become something no longer human, I would still wait for your return. At that moment, the ground beneath us began to shake violently. From deep within the shrine, an evil voice echoed. If you have reunited, then die together once again. The entire shrine shook violently, as if it were about to collapse. The stone statues around us began to crack, pieces falling onto the cold ground. From beneath the altar, a thick stream of black smoke rose, carrying the metallic scent of old blood. The Spirit Maiden stepped back, her face turning pale. It was the first time I saw real fear in her eyes. Min immediately stepped in front of me. The wooden sword in his hand began to glow with a faint red light. From within the smoke, a giant figure slowly appeared. Its body was tall and thin, with unnaturally long arms. Black claws scraped across the stone floor, creating a chilling sound. When its face became visible under the candlelight, I froze. It was the face of the village chief from long ago. But now his eyes were nothing but two endless black sockets. He laughed madly. 300 years.
At last you have returned. I clenched my fists as memories of the betrayal burned like fire inside me. Min turned toward me. If you want to end this, only you can do it. I looked at him, then at the sword in his hand. Somehow, I understood what I had to do. The spirit maiden stepped closer and placed her icy hand on my forehead. In that instant, an ancient power awakened within me. My eyes slowly glowed crimson, and for the first time, the dark spirit stepped back in fear. The ancient power exploded inside me like a flame sealed away for centuries. The entire shrine was swallowed by crimson light. The dark spirit stepped back, its hollow black eyes trembling. For the first time, it felt fear. Min stood beside me, the wooden sword in his hand now shining brightly as if awakened. The spirit maiden whispered, "To end the curse, one soul must return to complete the seal." I understood instantly. 300 years ago, I sacrificed myself, and today, fate had returned for me once more. Min held my hand tightly, his eyes filled with tears. "No, I won't lose you again." I smiled. For the first time in so long, memory and the present became one. This time, we ended together. Min and I stepped forward together. The wooden sword pierced through the black smoke and struck directly into the dark spirit's heart. The dark spirit screamed madly as its body began to crumble into ashes. But the moment the seal was completed, Ming's body began turning transparent. I held him in panic. "No, Ming!" He smiled gently and wiped the tears from my face. "My vow is finally fulfilled." As he finished speaking, Ming's body dissolved into tiny lights, drifting into the night. I knelt in the ruined shrine, tears falling endlessly. But this time, I no longer felt alone, because I knew, somewhere, he was still watching over me.